This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome, everyone, to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is your radio show / podcast designed to bring you the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around us. I try to find guests who can give us insight into trends that when they tell us about them and tell how they're dealing with them, it will give us a little insight into something that we can do that will make each of us a little bit better at whatever it is we do. Again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining along on the ride. I'm happy to say our neck of the woods here and where I'm located in South Alabama and across the state of Alabama has had some recent good shines on it, some good spotlights on it that should make the entire state proud of what's going on. And that's always the case, but there have been a handful that have shown themselves to me recently. And I'll be able to get into detail on these things in future episodes. But we've got a young lady who's doing very well out of our area on a national scene in New York City. I'll give you more detail on her as I'm able to catch up with her and get her on the show. We've got a television series or a streaming series, really, that's going to be released soon that highlights our part of the world. And if you live in Mobile and drive north about 40 minutes, you come to the city of Calvert, Alabama. And in Calvert, Alabama is one of the world's most advanced, foremost stainless steel manufacturing plants. It is in Calvert, and it's the Outokumpu stainless steel manufacturing facility that is headquartered in Helsinki, Finland. They're a remarkable company, a global reach, a global scale, and have had some great successes. And I became much more familiar with this company back in, I think it was either January, February, when I was asked to do a workshop for them, a little presentation for them at their Americas meeting. So in the conference room are people from all over North and South America here to kind of catch up and talk about what's important to the organization, a conference, a company-wide conference. The CEO of the whole entire organization was there. His name is Heikki Malinen, and I watched him deliver comments just prior to me going up on the stage to begin my comments and thought, this guy is just really impressive. His control of content. And that's one of the things that is highlighted so many of these interviews with so many of these successful business people is the remarkable control of the content and the details of their business. And he was no exception. His control of the content and the way he delivered it made him interesting. His humility made him, likable. And then one of the guys from the conference said, hey, down here we have Mardi Gras. It's upcoming, which it was at the time of the conference. And we do this thing called a second line. And they played the music. And the guy that's kind of led the second line had an umbrella or a napkin, as you know, you can see this in your head, dancing around the room. And Heikki was the first one to jump in and join in, and willingness to laugh at himself and smile. I reached out to him and said, I'd love for you to be on my radio show. He will be one of the most globally influential people that I've ever interviewed. And he said, yeah, I'd love to do it, Cam. So this was in February when I made the ask. I said, I need an hour of time on your schedule, and we'll do it via Zoom. You can do it from Helsinki, and we'll capture this thing. And he said, okay, I'll get on it. And the first time, this was in February that I asked, the first time that he was available was in almost late April. What type of person, what type of job can't find an hour of time in that amount of time? And I thought, this guy is going to be impressive. And I began to follow him on LinkedIn. and I saw his travels. I saw the types of people he's meeting with and the influence that he must have to get these meetings with people. Folks, this is high cotton for me, man. This is a high watermark for the show. When we come back from the break here in a little bit, I'm going to have with me on the line Heikki Malinen. He is the president, the CEO of Outokumpu. They earned, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll get him to confirm, $10 billion US last year. Billion. That's more than I make, by the way. When we come back, me and Heikki getting into it on his business Outokumpu and the trends impacting that company. We'll be right back after this break. You're listening to What's Working.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please go forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Hey, this is Cam Marston. My What's Working radio show has given me a front row seat to what's going on in today's workplace and workforce. I'm taking what I've learned and delivering it as a live presentation. If your company, team, or association is looking for a speaker to kick off or wrap up your event, check out my presentations at my website, cammarston.com, or find me on YouTube to watch some sample videos. You can expect actionable and relevant content delivered with lots of humor. On my site, you can find my client list and testimonials. I welcome your calls and your emails. Reach out. Let's find a way to deliver fresh, thought-provoking, actionable content to your event. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston on a Zoom call today. On the other end of the line is the new high water mark for this show in terms of business influencers. When I asked him to be on, I was so grateful that he was willing to do so. On the line is Heikki Malinen. He is the CEO, president and CEO of Outokumpu, and he is talking to me today from Helsinki, Finland. I'm honored and pleased and humbled that you'd be willing to do this with me, Heikki. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Hey, Cam, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and good morning to you. It's almost late afternoon here in Finland.
Yes.
But anyway, you're enjoying the sunny days of southern U.S.
Southern U.S. in Mobile, Alabama. Your plant, your manufacturing facilities up in Calvert, Alabama, which is about a 40-minute drive from me where I sit. When I met you at the Grand Hotel in Point Clear, I saw a man who was charismatic, very interested in everybody in the room. I was really impressed when they began the second line parade to kind of welcome everybody to Mobile, that you were second in line for the second line parade. Here's a guy that's willing to have a lot of fun, but with an extraordinary control over content and really a recognition of the global economy in a way that I think most people around here are unaware. And when I heard your opening comments, I thought I want to get him on the show if he'd be willing. We here in Alabama are aware of what it is that you do. However, I think there are a lot of people listening that aren't aware of the scope of your business and the size of it. If you would, let's begin with your description of what it is that you do, your locations, some of the measurements that you use to define success.
Very good. So first of all, Outokumpu is the largest producer of stainless steel, I would say, in the Western Hemisphere, so excluding now the Chinese. So to speak. And the product we manufacture is stainless steel. It's a very valuable, precious product. In your house, you'll probably see the product in your washer dryer. You will see it maybe on the countertop, of course, forks and knives and stuff like that. In your car, different parts of the vehicle are often stainless steel. It's used in aerospace. It's greatly used in oil and gas industry. Anywhere you need corrosion-resistant products, you will have stainless steel. And last year, our sales were over $10 billion. We had a stellar year financially. It was the best year financially ever for the company. And financially, we're a very strong player We operate mainly in the United States and Europe.
$10 billion. That's significant. That's an extraordinary number. And you said it was a high watermark for your company last year. So many of my interviews have had really bumper years on the heels of COVID. They've done really well. Many people didn't know what to expect. They were prepared to shutter their businesses and try to weather the storm. Instead, they had to ramp up. Was that your case as well? Did stainless steel demand boom in the after COVID kind of got started?
We're very lucky in the sense that our products go to many applications, so we're not dependent on one particular, let's say, end-use market. But I have to say that especially in the areas of home appliances, so washers, dryers, dishwashers, microwaves, the demand over the last couple of years was just phenomenal. I don't think we've ever seen a pickup in demand of this magnitude when it comes to home appliances. And that was really something extraordinary. We were able to take advantage of that, luckily. But I have to say that people have probably bought a few too many now washer dryers. So I think maybe over the couple of next years, we'll have to be selling stainless to some other areas.
Yeah. So was it purely U.S. that saw this bumper crop, or was it worldwide?
It was also in Europe, like fortunately for us. The Chinese market, I know, has been very weak. Over the last 2 years, China has had a huge COVID lockdown, and they actually continued that even until the beginning of this year.
Right.
So Asia has been very quiet, but I would say the United States and the European Union, Western Europe have really benefited from this quite dramatic increase in demand.
When I met you at Point Clear at the Grand Hotel, there were people in the room from, I think, Mexico as well as Brazil. Where else do you have manufacturing facilities across the world?
We operate in North America and the United States and Mexico. In addition to that, our largest facilities are in the Northern Europe, so Finland, Sweden, and then Central Europe, Holland, the Netherlands, Germany, Italy. These are the largest places. Yeah.
So you do not have a facility in China?
No, we don't. And I have to say, at the moment, luckily we don't.
Yeah.
Because I think the world is now changing quite dramatically. And I think one worry less for me.
Yes, sure. Speaking of the world, most of the listeners around here, most of my guests are in a local, if not statewide economy. You're in a world economy. And we read a lot of things, the listeners and I do, about worldwide geopolitics and actions and things like that. You're not, compared to me here in Mobile, Alabama, you're not far from the war in Ukraine. Has that had any impact on what it is that you do?
It hasn't really had a direct, strong impact on our business. I mean, it of course impacts people's sentiment or psyche. You know, if you think about how far the Ukraine is from, for example, London, you know, it's a 2.5-hour flight. It's like, you know, flying from New York down to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it isn't actually that far when you think about it, you know, physically. And, you know, millions of women and kids have been displaced. They've had to move out of Ukraine into Western Europe, Germany, for example. So it's putting a toll on a lot of economies. And of course, it's sad, you know, of course, when people are dying and losing their households, it's a tremendous tragedy.
Yeah, it's been the biggest war in the Western world since World War II. Has it impacted a lot of the conversation during the initial days of the war were of the natural resources that were flowing out of Russia, particularly natural gas, cheap natural gas, that was fueling a lot of Germany. In fact, I remember reading The Economist, and The Economist magazine was saying, hey, Germany, this may not be such a good idea to become so dependent upon the Russian gas because they're a volatile provider. Have you experienced any of that in any way? Are you having to take price increases on your product due to more expensive resources?
Well, Germany is at the heart of the European economy. And if, you know, Germany goes through some tough times, it does create waves that impact many other nations and other markets. You are indeed quite right. Germany has been highly dependent on access to cheap natural gas from Russia. I think I recall reading somewhere that 40% of German households have been getting their heating from natural gas, where, of course, Russian gas is their primary source. So when you cut off that a low-cost source of energy, it does create a huge amount of problems. What happened this winter was that we were expecting a very cold winter. The winter actually was fairly mild.
Yeah.
And so with some energy savings plus, higher temperatures, I would say Europe kind of was able to duck the bullet, so to speak. But the fundamental problem hasn't gone away. Germany has decided to close all of its nuclear power plants. This happened after the Fukushima disaster about a decade ago. And now, so we're in a situation where I think the whole continent is trying to figure out what happens next.
Yeah.
And luckily, the United States has been able to supply LNG, or liquid natural gas, to Europe, and more is coming. So I think we're very grateful for that. But I think the question of European energy supply longer term is a major strategic question.
Yeah. What do you want to see happen, Heikki? When you call the prime ministers of countries, when you call the chancellors and the senior leaders of countries around the world, they take your call. They don't take my call, but they take your call. You have influence over there. You have their ear. What do you want to see happening? Are you trying to influence that? Is that a part of your role as CEO of Outokumpu, is to influence that?
We're one of the largest, stainless steel production uses a huge amount of electricity.
Sure.
So we are a huge user of energy. So access to energy and access to cost competitive energy is really fundamental to the success of our business. So in Europe, of course, compared to the United States, we do not have our own natural gas sources. We do also not have oil and gas like the United States has with shale gas. So the solution for some of the countries has been nuclear power. Finland is among, I would say, in addition to France, Finland is the most nuclear pro country in Europe. And we have just completed this largest actual nuclear power plant in all of Europe, which has just started now. We're very interested in seeing what is the future of so-called small modular reactors, so SMRs. The U.S. has a number of suppliers who can potentially produce these type of technologies. So I believe personally in nuclear. I am also believing that wind power will have to play a role, because up in here in the Nordics, it's very windy. So with the strong winds, natural, wind power is a really kind of a no-brainer. Yeah. In terms of an energy source.
Is there enough wind power to power a stainless steel plant? It seems like it's it can run my blender, it maybe can run my washer and dryer, but the enormous amount of electricity you must consume. Is there enough wind? I don't know much about wind, but is there enough wind to turn your switches on every day?
No, wind in itself will not solve the energy problem for Europe. It has to be a combination of many things. Obviously, like I said, the so-called fossil fuels will be around. We will have coal. We will have LNG. Yeah. But renewable energy is coming.
I'm Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. I'm on the line with Heikki Malinen. He's the CEO of Outokumpu. He's talking to me from Helsinki. We'll be right back. Do you have an industrial or commercial construction project you're ready to make a reality? Persons Services Corp is a diverse specialty contractor capable of tackling complex projects. They've won awards from Engineering News Record and the Association of General Contractors. If you're looking for a turnkey project management solution, advanced technologies, and skilled personnel you can trust, look no further than Persons Services Corp. Find out more at personsservices.com. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm on the line with Heikki Malinen. He is the CEO of Outokumpu. He is with me from Finland right now, from Helsinki in their headquarters. And as I sit here in Mobile, he and I are having a nice casual chat about what it's like to be one of the most influential people in the world, where there's not anybody on the planet where he doesn't call, they'll take their call. That is not the same with you and me. Heikki, one of the things that we talked about in that conference where you participated over in Point Clear was the workforce. And there's a lot of questions today around the workforce. COVID has disrupted a lot of the workforce, the work from home. There was a long session done, very impressive session done by a gentleman named Richard Jolly, who also has been on the show, about workplace culture. If you would, from your point of view, give me an overview of workforce trends and perhaps things that you're struggling with or opportunities that you see down the road.
Yeah, I think workforce culture, corporate culture is extremely important. It really is almost like the DNA and the muscle of the organization that brings everything together. So I think most companies now are being really challenged. I mean, if I take, for example, our situation, we've had people working around the world. They've now been working from home for quite a number of years. And now as an employer, of course, I would like to see them back in the office.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult for me to connect with the staff, via, digitally by Teams or Zoom or whatever. Yes, I mean, it works, but you cannot really develop strong relationships with people, in my view, in a digital world. Maybe it's easier for the younger folks. Maybe I'm an old timer. I don't know, but I still feel that having sort of, proximity and joking together live is much more important. So I really don't know how to solve this. I was just looking at the statistic on cell phone usage in LA, downtown LA, and it showed that compared to 2019, cell phone usage is down 65%. So that means that a lot of people are not coming down to downtown LA anymore for work. The same in San Francisco, same in San Jose, same in many other cities. So it's this remote thing is really disrupting also many service jobs. Restaurants don't get customers.
Yeah.
People aren't buying, takeaway stuff. It's going to change the world around us, I think, in many ways for not so good. I spoke with my daughter. I was complaining a bit about this workforce, this remote culture, because I don't really like it that much. And my daughter said, well, she is going to choose her employer now based on who allows her to work remotely. It's actually more important for her than the actual salary. And I was really shocked.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's 29 years old, and that's what she's thinking.
She's thinking she would rather have a job that allows her to work from the coast of Florida, the coast of Italy, anything like that, than a very commanding salary. And so as the CEO, how do you structure a workplace like that? How do you set incentives? How do you create an incentive plan to make people want to work if money is not the thing? This is the very same question that my local companies are asking. So it's almost refreshing to hear that you on a global scale are dealing with this thing. Have you guys and it gets into, Heikki, which I know you know, workplace culture, which we both agree is so very important. You can't have a culture without these people around regularly. Do you foresee productivity hits ultimately down the road? What is the biggest hit to this? Is production going to drop? Is quality going to drop? What's the biggest threat, or is it an unknown?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're doing our utmost to find ways to incentivize folks to work. I personally know some companies, especially in the financial services, in the banking business, have pretty much mandated, folks that you either come to work Monday through Friday, or you're fired or you're let go. I don't think that really is a long-term successful recipe. You can't really force people to do something in today's day and age. You got to incentivize them. So what we do is we have, for example, every Wednesday in the afternoon, we have a big sort of a coffee cakes type of an event, just to, mingling events. We organize a lot of them around the company just to try and get in folks to come to the office. You may say, okay, is this necessary? But in our line of business, when people have options, I think it is important. But in terms of long-term, casualties of this phenomenon, I think, silent knowledge, the water cooler information, I mean, we're losing that. You don't have these ad hoc, people bump into each other and they share knowledge. All of that's kind of gone. I'm still trying to find the answer here myself. I think this is not a good trend, honestly.
Yeah.
But maybe someone will, prove to me that I'm wrong. But at the moment, I see more downside than upside.
There's only one client of mine that has expressed positive feedback on the work from home. They're an engineering company based in Sacramento, California. And during the COVID pandemic, their productivity shot through the roof. It increased. And the CEO of this company said, I would be a fool to try to get everybody back to the office based on the returns that I've seen from this work from home. And he is the only one of the companies that I've interacted with that has said we are going to leave work from home in place. However, my suspicion is, not just to be the doubting Thomas, but my suspicion is at one day they're going to have to reverse that trend. They got a big bump in productivity due to the newness of work from home, but I don't think it's going to survive. That's my opinion. I don't think it's going to survive very long. Now, you have an interesting component to this, Heikki, and that is you have people that are on the manufacturing floor, the plant floor, who are required to be there. They cannot produce the product unless they're in their positions in the plant. And then you have some other quote unquote white collar folks who can work from home. Is there friction internally between those two types of people, those two roles?
I don't know if there's friction, but I think it does. It kind of creates an odd situation.
Yeah.
Because obviously, production can only happen, when you're physically there. These machines don't run on autopilot, so, the folks have to go to the plant and that's also, they're there to make a good product. It doesn't happen on its own. And then like you said, in many roles, you can do work from remote. So it seems to me that we just have to accept, at least for the time being, that this is the new world.
Yeah.
However, I am very worried about how to create long-term, let's say, commitment and loyalty to the employer. If you don't see your colleagues physically, you don't see your boss physically. I have to say, though, to your earlier point about the gentleman from California, if you, let's say, live in London and you spend, 90 minutes to 2 hours commuting one way, so that's 3 to 4 hours a day, of course, it's a huge productivity boost. And your lifestyle will improve dramatically if you don't have to sit in, the subway for 2 hours.
Yeah,
both ways. So, I mean, that is, of course, that resonates. I understand that it makes a lot of sense. There's a business case for that from the standpoint of the employee.
We're talking about employees. I find that my employers can't get enough engineers. They're looking for engineers. It's a very competitive field to recruit engineers. I'm curious, when you look across your company, what are the jobs that you are working hardest to fill? What are the subspecialties, perhaps, that you can't get enough of?
Yeah, we have spent quite a lot of, we have a long history of having apprenticeship programs. So we bring in, young people, late teens, often straight from high school. And they learn the job from scratch, and then they can get a degree, whatever degree they ultimately want to pursue, on the job. So that has allowed us to grow, the next generation of engineers in-house. Mm-hmm. But I would say as we go beyond today into the future, I think digitalization, anything that, for example, relates to AI, i.e. artificial intelligence, yep, or software development, those are going to be jobs where people are going to be battling for that talent.
Yeah. So one of the things you keep an eye on is world economics, world politics, world trends. One of the world trends that's poking its head up right now that perhaps you've been familiar with much longer than I have is AI, ChatGPT, AI. It's remarkable what I'm seeing people able to do with it right now. I'm wondering, Heikki, if you looked at this and said, here is the application of this technology to Outokumpu, have you taken it to that next level yet?
We're in the midst of doing that. Let me just say one thing about AI. I had a chance by accident to bump into a little video program on YouTube where they were showing me the demo on what OpenAI or OpenIA, I'm not sure the name, but anyway, this new ChatGPT can do. And I strongly recommend to your listeners that if you have not done it, go and check out what GPT-4 can do. It is so mind-boggling.
Yes.
And I think we're in the midst of one of the most profound phenomena or events in our lifetime when it comes to technology. This is a much bigger thing, in my view, than the invention of the cell phone. This is going to change the world, and it's going to be a much bigger and faster change than we saw when the cell phone was invented.
That's a big statement, because I can remember life before and after the cell phone. So to say it will even be a greater watershed moment, a sea change even greater than the cell phone, is a big statement. On 60 Minutes, the television show here, CBS News show, I watched it last weekend and watched one of their reporters watch this work in the Google headquarters. And he was speechless. I mean, these guys are paid handsome salaries to not be speechless. And he was speechless at the power of AI, and he couldn't get his head around the impact that it would have. We're coming up to break, Heikki. We're going to go into the fourth segment here in just a moment, and we're going to get to know you. We'll be right back. This is Cam Marston.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm Agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm Agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Again, thank you for being a part of this show, listening in. This morning, I'm sitting in my home office studio with Heikki Malinen. He is the president CEO of Outokumpu. He's on the line with me in a Zoom call from Helsinki, Finland, in the world headquarters of Outokumpu. And the grasp this gentleman has of world politics, world indicators, things like that is truly, truly remarkable. One of the things that I find most interesting about people like you, Heikki, is how you got to where you are today, what your story is. And I want the listeners to know this. When I reached out to Heikki after meeting him at Point Clear at the Grand Hotel at their their Americas meeting, I reached out, would you like to be on the show? The answer was yes, I would. Okay, I need an hour of your time. In the first hour, this was back in February, the first hour you had available was today in late April. What kind of schedule must you live to find an hour on your schedule over 2 months away? Let's begin with how you got into this position. What's your background, your training, your education? Is this what you've always wanted to do?
I think I'll be very honest with you. I have to say that I didn't want to become a CEO from a young age. I didn't really have an idea what the CEO job was, but I always wanted to become that. And I've been extremely fortunate in the sense that all of my childhood, I was a bit like an officer child. My father worked in the Foreign Service. He wasn't an officer, but we were always moving around. So I've had, as a child and a young man growing up, I had a chance to live in the Middle East. I grew up near the pyramids. I've lived in Brazil, in Singapore. I've lived in the United States in 5 different cities. I had a chance. I was really fortunate to have been chosen to get to Harvard Business School. I think I was the third Finn ever to get into Harvard. So all of these things have given me, I think, a sense of what the world is, sort of a more global perspective of things. And it's also, pushed me to test my barriers, my limits in many ways. And I think that has sort of been part of my upbringing, which has been part of the foundation of my life.
Were you originally educated as an engineer? So many of the CEOs, executives at your level, leading organizations, seem to have a common background of an engineering training. Is that yours case as well?
No, it isn't. And I've spent. It's funny that you asked, because I've spent my whole life in industries which are very technical or have a high level of technology or industry. No, but my background is more from economics and then the MBA from Harvard.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious. I love to learn new things, and I'm able to pick up, technology quite easily. So I'm a curious person. That has helped.
What does a day look like for you? You wake up in the morning and it's got to be meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. My
days are very, someone would say boring or predictive, because I wake up every morning at the same time at 05:30. I drink a cup of coffee and I go to the gym, and I select my hotel. So there's a gym, or if I'm home, I go to the gym at 5:45, 6 o'clock, and I do my 1 hour exercise. And that really keeps me in extremely good shape. And I think in this type of a job, it is a bit like you're almost like an athlete, because unless you have the physical stamina, you cannot do it. So, but otherwise, my days are, like nowadays, there's a lot of travel. I did travel during COVID time somewhat, but the last 12 months, I've been traveling a lot around the world. It does wear on you a bit over time, especially the time differences. But I do feel that when I see people like in Lucky Mobile, it's a whole different type of an experience when you see people in person.
Yeah.
And you learn so much, and you can also share things much easier. So I travel a lot.
So when you arrived in Mobile, if I recall correctly, you had just been meeting with our new senator, Katie Britt. And I think you had met with her in Washington, D.C., and you were impressed with her. And then I follow you on Facebook from here, from Mobile. I think you went to Washington State and had some meetings with the technology companies up there.
Yeah.
And so you meet with these different people, these different influencers. What, in your experience, do they have in common? If you know you're going to meet with a senator, and then you're going to meet with these influencers in the technology corridor of the Northwest, are there assumptions you can make about who they are and how you need to treat them? To get to where you are, you have to know and enjoy and be able to work with people. What is your thought on people in those positions?
I think 2 things come to my mind. Extremely strong social skills.
Yeah.
Super good communication skills, very good interacting skills, but then also a very high command of detail. So people really comprehend, they know their stuff.
Yeah.
And I think combination of knowing sufficient detail, the subject matter, and then being good at communicating, I think those are very important elements. And commonality.
What is the least favorite part of what you do?
Well, I should sleep more. So I would love to sleep more. I think it's chronically underslept. Yeah, that I would love to sleep more.
When you get selected for a job as CEO of a worldwide organization like this, does your board expect you to be there a minimum and a maximum of some amount of time? They've got to know this is an exhausting job. And they go to you and say, hey, we would like you to consider this role. You're going to age twice the amount of time that you're in this role. So we're hoping to get 5, 7, 8, 10 years out of you. Is that a reasonable request of them?
Well, this is my 4th job, probably the last one. And at this level, I've been in a CEO job over 15 years. And, if everything goes well, I've still got, 4 years to go before I guess we have in my contract, official, retirement age.
Yeah.
So then if I get that far, I will have been, almost 20 years in a CEO role. I think, it comes down a bit, you have to be good at managing stress, or you have to sort of, you have to get used to stress. I think that's one thing. You have to remain healthy, and you have to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I love my job. This is the greatest job, one could have. It's a lot of fun. It has its challenges, but it's a lot of fun.
What is retirement going to look like with you? You've seen the world. You've lived in so many different places. You must have an appetite for what retirement will look like. Are you going to shuffle off down to Florida like so many people in the U.S. do? Are you going to stay in Finland? What are you thinking?
Honestly, I don't like the R word. The retirement word.
You won't even say it.
so yeah, I think most likely I will never retire, in the sense that people that probably think, commonly do. I'll have other jobs, not, 24/7, but I will continue probably working until my last day. It's kind of where I am, who I am, not full time, but, I will want to stay active. When I look at these people, Warren Buffett, Henry Kissinger, I mean, they're all hitting 100.
Yeah.
And if you look at what's common with these people, they just are active. Their brains are being constantly used. They're challenging themselves. They're learning new things. They stay abreast of what's going on. I think that's also part of staying, living a long life.
What do you read every day? What are your sources of information that help you understand the world?
Many sources of information. I think it's the challenge here is there's so much information available. What information is really critical? I think I'm more struggling with the fact that it's hard always to decide, what is really relevant. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there, social media, news, Twitter, newspapers. I read almost anything. I'm a real news junkie. But it's tough sometimes to figure out what's really relevant.
Do you see a role for yourself in politics someday? You've got so much.
Never, ever. That is not going to happen.
So you depend upon these politicians. We talked about Katie Britt from Alabama. I suppose you meet with politicians all over the world. You depend upon them, but it's not something that you want to do.
You need different skills, which I don't have for that type of a job.
I'm not going to ask you to elaborate what skills you feel are necessary to become a politician, because I suspect that you and I have similar feelings about politicians. So on your vacations, Heikki, when you do actually leave and go someplace different and warm, where are you going and what are you doing while you're there? And my suspicion is you're reading the news, the headlines every day on vacation.
That is correct, every day. But I love to play golf. And what I like about Alabama is you have fantastic golf courses.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to play a few of them, and they are really fantastic.
So your retirement will include a lot of golf, is what you're saying?
I really hope so.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we've got the Robert Trent Jones Trail here in Alabama, which you're nodding. You're familiar with that. Very proud of that. And I see these people in the airport when I fly. They're carrying golf clubs, speaking a different language, and they've started either in Mobile and worked north or starting in Huntsville and have worked south playing golf for a week or 10 days, and they seem to love it. I'm very proud that they've come here to do so. What is one thing, Heikki, that the people of the state of Alabama, who are so very proud to have you here, can do for you?
Well, I think one thing, of course, for us, the Calvert plant was a huge investment. We've spent well over $1 billion on the plant, and hopefully we'll invest much more in the coming years. The state of Alabama has a very pro-business culture.
Yeah,
it's very easy to do business in the state, and we've been warmly welcomed. We have a great source of talented people working for us. I hope it stays like that. So there isn't that much red tape. And as I said, the logistics are good, roads are good, things are working. I really hope things stay that way. So please don't change these things.
What little influence I have, I'll do all I can, Heikki. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a delight, and I wish you the best. If we can ever be of help, I hope you'll reach out.
Cam, thank you very much for your time and interest. Take care.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this break, folks. We'll wrap it up. You're listening to What's Working. Person Services Corp is a diverse specialty contractor that's changing how people think about general contractors. Person Services Corp has experts in industrial and general construction, disaster recovery, infrastructure, and mechanical. They offer the latest in industry technology, turnkey project management services, and custom project solutions. Person Services Corp has 5 offices across the Southeast to meet you anywhere your project demands. Find them at personsservices.com. As I so often say after these interviews, that was pretty cool. That was really very cool. And I know that we could have gone on and on and on with Heikki on the business that he runs and his outlooks and things like that. By the way, you're listening to What's Working. We're back. Cam Marston here. I'm kind of stuck for words. It was wonderful to get this man on the call and to have him share with me what he did. What you didn't hear in the interview after the microphones were off is that Heikki is very, very, most often when he's interviewed, it's from a business show and they want to go through his P&L. They want his deep thoughts and impressions and his outlooks of the business based on the details revealed in the P&L. And he said to me, Cam, it's kind of fun to talk about things that aren't so in detail about the business, about the global stage and the workforce trends. And even then a little bit about himself. What does he want to do when he's retired? And it was he said to me, a kind of a refreshing way of going about an interview. He was prepared for much more of a deep dive into the P&L. And that's one of the promises that I make to the listeners of this show is that stuff is important. The P&L stuff is important, but that's not what's working with Cam Marston is after. We want the trends, and I want to get to know the people that are these influencers in their business. I want to look at it at a high level and then get to know the individual a little bit and who they are and what they do. And I think he was pleasantly surprised that that's the direction this show went, and that's the commitment that I make to you, the listeners. If you want the details and the numbers and the deep dives into the business, this is not the place for you. If you want a lighter look, a more optimistic look, a more human interest look, then I hope you'll continue listening. I sure enjoy doing it, and I sure enjoy getting to meet people like Heikki. Well, the show continues to grow. We've got more very interesting interviews coming up with these people who are willing to talk with us. I'm still, frankly, a little bit on a high from speaking with E.P. Carrillo, the man who owns the cigar company, and he's kind of a legend in my mind. So we continue to explore, continue to find new things, new people to interview. Now, of course, as we wrap the show up for the week, it's time for the obvious self-promotion stuff. You can find us on LinkedIn. Look for me, Cam Marston. You can find this podcast, by the way, at what'sworkingcam.com. And there you can listen to this show again if you wish. But more importantly, you can subscribe to the show at that website through any of your favorite podcast apps. And at that website, you can send this show on to people that you feel need to hear it. Hey, check this one out. This one's kind of good. Something like that. You'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. And I want you to email me thoughts, questions, ideas. Are there people that I need to meet, people that I think I need to know? I hope you'll reach out and let me know who those people are. You can do that, Cam at cammarston.com, Cam at cammarston.com. And I'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on things. The last thing I'll say, the book, What Works. One of the things that I did to get Heikki on the show was walk up to him at that conference and hand him this book, What Works. It's the best 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes. Let me clarify. It's not the best 10 episodes. It's the best 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes. And one of the ideas that's featured in the book is one of the things that Heikki and I talked about in our interview, a thorough control of the details, a thorough control of the content, which he has and which he says these people that he meets with all have in common, a message for each of us. Get into the weeds on your business, become an expert into the weeds on your business. It will impress people and it gives you credibility. That'll wrap us up. Show is produced by John Thompson with Eye on Digital, EYEON Digital. If you have a need, check John out. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everybody.